Hello everybody, my name is Professor Mehmet Dede. I'm an assistant professor of music industry at the Hartt School at the University of Hartford. Today I'm going to be presenting to you my case study, Tools of the Craft, the Value of Practicums in Arts and Music Management. I'm a music producer, curator, and educator. Currently I am Director of Programming at Manhattan venue Drum, where we present over 500 shows in many different genres, from singer-songwriter to world music, from hip-hop to electronic, and everything in between. Part of the reason why I'm interested in practicums is because it really enables me to bring my field experience into the classroom. Let's start by defining what a practicum is. According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, practicum is a course of study that involves the supervised practical application of a previously studied theory. So we're really talking about three things. Number one, that it needs to be studied in class before. Number two, it needs to be hands-on. And number three, that it needs to be supervised. The Arts Management Practicum course that we are offering at the Hartt School as part of Music Management Curriculum is a 300-level, upper-level core class for juniors. Students apply what they have learned in theory in class before to a real-life campaign. And this is a prime example of experiential learning. Students work in teams as part of a 10-week campaign with a supervisor and also a project director externally. This is how it sort of looks like. Students interact with the professor, who is the facilitator in class. They interact with each other as team members in class and outside of class on campus. And then they also interact externally with a project director at the arts organization. The course learning objectives of this course include developing an appreciation for the theories that were covered previously in their studies, and then really understand and explain how an arts organization works. Identify and solve problems as a team through mentoring and supervision, and then also cultivating a personal relationship and networking, which is really, really important, as we all know, in music and performing arts management. Here are the basics of this class. It's a 10-week campaign. The class is 14 weeks, but the campaign itself is 10 weeks. Students are split into teams of 3 to 5 students. I explain to the students what their responsibilities are and what my expectations are of them. I talk to the project directors at the arts organization as to what my expectations are of them, or rather what the students' expectations of them are of the project director, which includes investing their time, mentoring, and then evaluating the 10-week campaign. Group meetings will be happening throughout the semester in class with the instructor, among team members on campus, and then also externally, sometimes on site with the project director. Some of the skill set practiced throughout this campaign will include time management, work etiquette, communication, setting clear expectations, obviously. This really helps students build confidence. This is really a very important class in our curriculum. And there are two things that I always get great feedback on. One is learning to pivot, to really understand how to make things work, even though it may be a little different than what you had initially set forth. And then also be able to deal with difficult circumstances. Oftentimes, students have to deal with things that come up that were not really accounted for and planned for. The COVID-19 pandemic is probably a prime example to this. Students were planning to do in-person events and were setting everything up for that. When the pandemic hit in March, midway through the semester, they had to pivot and move everything online. And they learned a great deal during this time. Building leadership skills is really one of the main goals of this class, and being able to practice other skill sets, soft skill sets, are really important as part of the learning curve here. The assessment for this course is quadruple fold. Obviously, the in-class meetings and conversations and participation is key, because you can't necessarily understand the concept behind practicums without necessarily being in class. Then, midway through the semester, students do a benchmark presentation just to let me and also other fellow students know where they're standing, what they have done up until now, and what they will be working on. At the end of the semester, students will be assessed with a final presentation. That's 35% of their grade, where they basically reflect onto the entire experience. And then finally, they write a paper, an impact paper about their experience at this class. The timeline for this class is actually past 14 weeks, which is a regular semester. It's really more like 20 weeks because there's about a month or two that the instructor needs to set aside in order to identify the organizations that students will be working with. So I usually start this process in November, December, before the semester ends. Then I get to it in January, I come back to it in January, start introducing students and putting them in touch with the project directors. The campaign is executed, and the last 2 weeks are usually reserved for reflection, which is a really important part of this class as well. So let's look at the pre-semester setup. 4 to 6 weeks before the semester starts, I get in touch with organizations that I have identified before through my own research and my own relationships. I educate them as to what this really means, because this is not an internship. It's not exactly a simulation. So I try to explain to them what Arts Practicum really entails. I do this by sending them an information sheet, but also really talking to them over the phone or meeting with them in person. Then I receive a one sheet back from them that they fill out with background information as to the campaign and who they really are. This is sort of like how the practicum one sheet looks like. It includes the goals and the campaign event details. Includes contact information of the PD and anybody else that might be working on this campaign on their end. It includes the students' responsibilities, of course, the project director responsibilities, and then also tentative meeting places and times. For me, it's really important and critical that the students are able to meet with these external organizations on site where they are, so they can actually feel and see really what the office environment looks like. Of course, this was pre-pandemic, so students were able to do that. Nowadays, if I had to do this again, the meetings would probably be in over Skype or over virtual meetings. Once the campaign is underway, I talk to students to let them know what my expectations are, and I work with them for them to put together a proposal. So the idea is that the students, the teams are an external consultant working with this organization for 10 weeks, and this is what their menu of deliverables includes. That also comes with an action plan and a contract that they're signing with the arts organization. So this really simulates a real life experience of what a consultant might be doing with an arts organization, whether it be for-profit or non-profit. Then the weekly meetings start with the external organization. Every week we are also meeting in class for workshopping experiences. This is supervised by me. The bi-weekly meetings with the project director, again, happen on or off campus, preferably on site, but also virtually. Students execute the campaign. Their supervisor on site is the PD, and in class, again, it's the instructor, which is myself, and then they are assessed with benchmark and final presentations in the middle and towards the end of the semester. After the campaign ends, as I've mentioned, the reflection element is really, really important, and we want to make sure that students have a chance to reflect back onto their experience through final presentations, but also impact papers that they're writing themselves. For the final presentation, the project director is invited to come to class and be with the students, and then be able to not only see the presentation, but then also be able to give comments to the students right at that moment. I'm also involved in the final presentations in the sense that I'm giving them feedback and I'm being there with them. Students also assess themselves, so there's peer evaluation happening at the end of the semester to see what worked and what didn't work as part of the team project. And then finally, students also submit a physical dossier alongside their 10-week campaign. So there's the execution of the campaign, there is the reflection through the final presentation, and then there's also a physical folder that they give to me. What does the folder include? Things such as the contract they signed, their proposal, their action plans, flyers that they worked on, their marketing campaigns, photos from the events that they have produced, feedback that they might have received, anything that's related really to the campaign. After the final presentations, I still leave 1 or 2 weeks in order to give group feedback, to all the different team members, see how they can integrate this experience onto their portfolio or onto their LinkedIn profile or their resume. Here are some past projects from the last 4 years. Having done this project, offered this class, we have worked with a nonprofit organization named Real Artways in Hartford, where the students did promotion and developed marketing campaigns. We worked for a profit. The students worked with a for-profit company, Infinity Hall, which is a music venue, on booking and curating a showcase. They worked with University of St. Joseph at the Performing Arts Center in order to increase their membership, doing calls and communicating with donors. They worked with the Little Theatre of Manchester in order to produce a Broadway-themed cabaret show, and then also be able to coordinate open call auditions. And then finally, earlier this year, a group of students worked with the artist Stephen Kallock on producing and curating his book tour along with the solo performances. This was moved online after the pandemic happened. So all in all, really hands-on, great experience for the students to be involved in. I always get great feedback at the end of the semester from the students, explaining how relevant this really was to their education up until then. This also sets them up for internship opportunities, mentorship opportunities, job opportunities, and really gets the entire networking process going, which is really critical in our field. Thank you so much for listening to me, and I look forward to seeing you at the Q&A session.